From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to another episode of Firstpost America, your global pit stop for the latest news and headlines from the United States and around the world. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. We'll get you a roundup of all the day's top stories, but first, let's take a look at the headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu proposes a post-war plan for Gaza, where he says local Palestinian officials without links to Hamas or the Palestinian Authority could govern the territory. Armenia suspends participation in a Russia-led security bloc as Yerevan takes another step to distance itself from its traditional ally, Moscow. British woman Shamima Begum, who joined ISIS as a teen, loses her appeal over UK citizenship. The ruling means she remains in Syria with no chance of returning to the UK. And at least 4 people killed as a huge fire rips through a 14-story apartment block in Spain's Valencia. At least 14 people remain missing, and authorities warn that the death toll could continue to rise. And finally, the United States returns to the lunar surface for the first time in over 50 years. After privately built spacecraft Odysseus touched down on the moon's south pole. We begin with the latest from the Middle East, where tensions continue to soar. In the Red Sea, Iran-backed Houthis have stepped up strikes, severely damaging ships passing through the strait in recent days. In the latest, the Houthis have warned that more attacks are on the way. They say they will target ships in the Red Sea and other waters with submarine weapons, and they have threatened to mirror Israel's Gaza's military operations in the Red Sea. Now, the Houthis have launched repeated drone and missile strikes in the Red Sea, Bab al-Mandab Strait, as well as in the Gulf of Aden since September. They say the strikes are in support of Palestinians as the Israel-Hamas war continues, with the death toll reaching nearly 30,000.
The Yemeni armed forces will continue to fulfill their religious, moral, and humanitarian duties towards the Palestinian people and in defense of dear Yemen against the American-British aggression. Their military operations will not cease until the aggression is stopped and the blockade on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip is lifted.
The Houthi rebels claim they conducted 3 attacks on Thursday, including an islander ship in the Gulf of Aden with naval missiles, an American destroyer in the Red Sea with a number of drones, and Israel's border city of Eilat, which was targeted with ballistic missiles and drones. Now, despite the continued attacks, the Pentagon described its military engagements in the region, dubbed Operation Prosperity Guardian, as quote-unquote successful.
I think, yes, we've certainly seen in the past 48, 72 hours an increase in attacks from the Houthis, more consistency. We know that the Houthis maintain a large arsenal. They are very capable. They have sophisticated weapons, and that's because they continue to get them from Iran. Do some of the missiles get through every now and then? Yes, we've seen that happen. But for the majority of the time, our engagements have been successful. Our allies' engagements have been successful. The Houthis are every single day putting at risk innocent mariners transiting, putting at risk the freedom of navigation. And therefore, Operation Prosperity Guardian is there to protect against that, alongside other allies and partners who have formed their own coalitions.
Now, also on Thursday, the Houthis issued their first formal notice to the shippers and insurers outlining a ban on vessels linked to Israel, the United States, and Great Britain from sailing in the region. The Houthis are disrupting the vital Suez Canal trade that accounts for more than 12% of the global maritime traffic. Now, this has forced shipping firms to take a longer, far more expensive route around Africa, upsetting global trade, resetting shipping costs to new highs, and surging insurance premiums. In fact, the IMF says that maritime container transport has sunk by almost a third so far in 2024 compared to last year. And now to Russia, where in a move to demonstrate the country's nuclear capabilities, Vladimir Putin took a co-pilot seat and flew a nuclear bomber. The Russian president took off in a modernized supersonic nuclear-capable aircraft. In fact, the giant plane, which is nicknamed White Swans by Russia and Blackjacks by NATO, can fly 12,000 kilometers nonstop without refueling and is capable of carrying 12 cruise missiles or 12 short-range nuclear weapons. In fact, it's a modernized version of a Cold War-era bomber that the former Soviet Union would have deployed in the event of a nuclear war to deliver weapons from long range. The giant plane took off and landed at a runway in Kazan, and its flight path, of course, remained a secret. Putin's 30-minute flight seemed intended to send a clear message of Russia's nuclear might amid soaring tensions with the West over its ongoing war in Ukraine. In fact, Putin called the plane reliable and a modernized aircraft that could be accepted by the Russian Air Force.
You know, this is really a new machine, new in many ways. It handles better. You can see that even with the naked, untrained eye. It is very reliable, very well armed. This is a brand new aircraft. We are getting new machines. These machines are excellent. They are truly of a new generation. As I told the aircraft commander and the leadership of the Ministry of Defense, I will now say again, of course, these new machines can make their way into the armed forces.
Now, under a contract signed in 2018, 10 of these modernized nuclear bombers are meant to be delivered to the Russian Air Force by 2027 at a cost of $163 million each. In fact, the bomber was not the only ride that Putin took. Later, he was also seen behind the steering wheel of a Russian-made Kumaz truck. He drove it on a highway to attend a meeting with truck drivers and heads of logistic companies in Kazan. In fact, during his visit, Putin was also asked about what he thought of Joe Biden's latest remark, calling him a crazy SOB. Putin smiled sarcastically and said Biden's remarks showed why the Kremlin felt that he, Joe Biden, was preferable to ex-President Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Listen, we talked not long ago, and you asked who would be preferred as the future president of the United States. I said that we would work with any president. But I suppose that for us, for Russia, Biden is more preferable. Judging by what he has said, I was absolutely right. Because this was an adequate reaction to what I had said. Why? Because he cannot say, Volodya, you are a good man. You've helped me a lot. We understand what is going on there in terms of politics. And that reaction is absolutely adequate. This means that I was right. What I said was for our audience first and foremost, not for Americans. You are a Russian journalist after all. And you asked what was better for us. So I told you then, and I can confirm and repeat it now. Biden is better.
Now, these appearances appeared to bolster Putin's image ahead of next month's election, an election that many experts already believe is, in fact, a foregone conclusion. Now, staying with Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden, the Russian president continues to face heat from the West over the death of Alexei Navalny. The opposition leader and Putin critic Navalny died in an Arctic prison last week. On Thursday, Joe Biden met with and held a private meeting with Navalny's widow and daughter as his administration announced fresh sanctions against Russia over his death. In fact, Biden could be seen hugging Yulia Navalny and speaking to her daughter Dasha. During the meeting, Biden expressed his admiration for Navalny's extraordinary courage and his willingness to stand against corruption for a free and democratic Russia. Navalny's widow vowed to continue her late husband's opposition to Putin.
This morning I had the honor of meeting with Alexei Navalny's wife and daughter. As to state the obvious, he was a man of incredible courage. And it's amazing how his wife and daughter are emulating that. And we're going to be announcing the sanctions against Putin, who is responsible for his death, tomorrow. And but the one thing that was made clear to me is that Yolanda is she's going to continue the fight he had underway. So we're not letting up. Thank you.
The visit, which took place at a hotel in San Francisco, came as the White House voiced support for Navalny's mother in her ongoing fight to retrieve her son's body. Alexei Navalny's mother has said that she has been shown his body, but that Russian authorities are pressuring her to allow a secret burial to take place. Lyudmila Navalny has said that she was brought to a morgue where she signed a death certificate, and she also said that the law required officials to hand over her son's body, but that she was being blackmailed as they refused to do so.
According to the law, they should have given me Alexei's body immediately, but they did not. Instead, they blackmailed me. They put conditions where, when and how Alexei should be buried. This is illegal. They received orders either from the Kremlin or from the Central Office of the Investigative Committee. They want it done secretly without a memorial service. They want to take me to the edge of the cemetery to a fresh grave and say, "Here lies your son," and I do not agree with that. I'm recording this video because they started threatening me. Looking me in the eye, the investigator said that if I do not agree to a secret funeral, they will do something with my son's body. The investigator, Voropayev, openly told me, "Time is not working for you, the corpses decompose."
Now, Russian authorities have refused to release Navalny's body. In fact, Navalny's team claims the 47-year-old was in fact murdered. He fell unconscious and died suddenly after a walk at the Polar Wolf Penal Colony, which is above the Arctic Circle where Navalny was serving a 3-decade sentence. Hundreds of people have been detained in Russia in recent days as events to pay tribute to Navalny continue. On Thursday, the Biden administration announced that it would sanction over 500 targets in Russia's war machine. These measures, in fact, are timed to mark 2 years of Russia's ongoing invasion in Ukraine, as well as in response to Navalny's death. Now, pet dogs, they seldom bite anyone. They might playfully nibble at the people they love, but sinking their teeth into human skin is a rare incident. But this case study takes a 180-degree turn when it comes to President Joe Biden's dog, Commander. In fact, it seems Commander, not his handlers, commands, in fact, what he does. Our next report explains.
A dog is a human's best friend. The love and care that the human parents give them, the pooches give back with even more affection. US President Joe Biden is also a pet parent of 2 dogs. He has 2 German shepherds named Major and Commander. While both of them are known for their notorious nature, it looks like Commander took the command of safeguarding the Bidens way too seriously. Let's sink our teeth into some serious news here. President Biden's pooch, Commander, has been causing quite the ruckus in the White House. Not because he's been burying bones in the Rose Garden, but he's been on a biting spree. Commander has been giving the Secret Service agents quite a rough time in the White House. According to documents obtained through Freedom of Information requests, Commander has been sinking his teeth into the job a bit too literally, with reports of him taking a nip at the US Secret Service agents not once, not twice, but a whopping 24 times. Looks like Commander might have mistaken them for a midnight snack. These agents have been getting bitten everywhere from the wrist to the waist. The 24 incidents took place between October 2022 to July 2023. An agent even had to get hospitalized because of the severity of the bite, while others sustained injuries which were fixed with stitches. One of the agents lost a significant amount of blood, post which a care package was delivered with painkillers, antibiotics, a muzzle, and dog biscuits. But that's not how one makes friends, going around nibbling on the agents like they're chew toys. The diligent Secret Service agents didn't give up despite being treated like dog treats. They changed their tactics. Agents decided to give Commander lots of room. They stood as far as they could when he was in the room. Maybe a real treat or two would have helped. Looks like even this didn't work, and finally the President and the First Lady had to step in. The Biden family brought in additional trainers to discipline him. They consulted an array of veterinarians and animal behaviorists. But Commander didn't abide by anyone's command other than his own. At last, the Bidens bid farewell to Commander. They sent him to live with their relatives. But Commander is not the first dog who the Bidens had to send away. Their other dog, Major, was also removed from the White House in 2021, followed by several biting incidents.
And finally, a somber moment in Kenya, where hundreds turned out to bid their final goodbyes to running sensation Kelvin Kiptum. The 24-year-old Kenyan marathon world record holder was killed in a car accident along with his coach on February 11th. Kenya gave the athlete a state funeral, and fans and supporters recounted their favorite memories of the decorated athlete. An inspiration to many, his shocking death is a tragic loss not only to the sport, but to a nation as well. Here's his story.
The world has bid goodbye to one of the best athletes ever. Kenyan running sensation Kelvin Kiptum's last rites were performed today. Hundreds of athletes, people from across the world, Kenyans and family members attended the funeral.
I am really thankful to everyone. It really shows that he was friends with everyone. When this news broke, people held our hands and cried with us. So I am happy for my neighbors and friends, both locally and internationally.
Kiptum's father had an emotional send-off. He recounted his bond with his marathon-winning son.
He had been training for about 7 years now. At one point, I had asked him to quit and come join me at the farm. He told me that all his hard work was going to bear fruit soon and that I had to be patient. I gave him my blessings, and thereafter he won his first race, the 21-kilometer, and from there he did not turn back. He won all the local races he participated in. I joined him most times on the road to wherever he had races.
Friends and well-wishers spoke about their interactions with Kiptum. For Kenya, Kiptum was a hero.
Kiptum, after winning those 3 major marathons, that is Valencia, London Marathon and the Chicago Marathon, where he broke the record, his life never changed. He just remained the Kiptum we know before. Yeah, we used to meet in the forest just like when he was still a normal village boy. Yeah.
Kelvin Kiptum was born in Kenya in the year 1999. He worked as a livestock herder and took to running quite late in his life. But very soon, he mastered the art of the stride. Kiptum holds the world record for the fastest marathon ever. The Kenyan achieved this at the Chicago Marathon in October last year. Kiptum also won the London Marathon in 2023. And he was ranked world number 1 in the men's category of marathon runners. Everything was going good for the Kenyan until tragedy struck. On the 11th of February, Kelvin Kiptum and his coach, Gervais Hakizimana, were killed in a car crash. The news sent shockwaves across the world. Kiptum lost his life at just 24 years of age. His coach, who hails from Rwanda, was just 36 years old when the tragic accident took his life. Coach Hakizimana's last rites were conducted in Rwanda.
Have not come into terms as like Gervais is no more.
Kiptum's death came as a shock to the world of sports. The Kenyan is more than just a running sensation. In fact, for young Kenyans and Africans, Kiptum was their pride and inspiration. As the last rites began, hundreds lined up to see the athlete one last time. Kenya held a state funeral to honor the marathon runner. Kiptum is survived by his wife and 2 children. A house is being built in his honor. But the world is slowly accepting the loss of Kiptum and Coach Hakizimana. Surely, Kelvin Kiptum will inspire generations to come.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you once again for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks so much for watching.
As the world feels the shock of wars, India stands as a beacon of strength. The Firstpost Defence Summit 2024 will showcase cutting-edge technologies, forging partnerships between industry, academia and research organizations. Witness the transformative story of India's defence sector. Firstpost Defence Summit 2024.
The Yemen-based Houthis